1968 Topps Rocky Colavito, a blank canvas. You just never knew where you'd find Rocky Colavito in the 1960s. It all started with the famous challenge trade that sent Rocco, the 1959 American League home run champ, from the Cleveland Indians to the Detroit Tigers in April of 1960. Headed to the Tribe in that deal was the reigning batting champ, Harvey Kuenn. Kuenn lasted just one season by the lake before Cleveland traded him to San Francisco that December. Colavito, on the other hand, stayed with the Tigers for 4 seasons, continuing to mash along the way. He cranked out 35, 45, 37, and 22 dingers from 1960 through 1963, before the Tigers flipped him to the Kansas City A's as 1964 dawned. Headed into his 30s, the power dip might have raised some concerns about Colavito's future, but he responded with 34 home runs and 102 RBI for Kansas City in 1964. And the club, in turn, responded by trading him to the Indians. Alas, Rocky found out that you can go home again, but that the reunion might not last forever. After 2 solid seasons with the Tribe, the Slugger's power tanked in 1967, and he was on the move again, traded to the Chicago White Sox in the late July after mustering just 5 homers in 216 plate appearances. Colavito appeared in 60 games down the stretch for the Chi Sox, managing just 3 long balls as Chicago fell short of their attempt to capture a pennant. They finished 3 games behind the Red Sox in 4th place. And that's where we find Colavito, sort of, on his 1968 Topps card. Sure, it says White Sox, but I'd lay commons to donuts that it's an Indian collar peeking up from under the bottom of the card. And that no-hat treatment? Yeah, it's partly that Topps didn't want to bother snapping a new pic of Rocky in his new uniform during the last part of the 1967 season. But also, surely, that Topps didn't want to bother snapping a new pic of Rocky in his new uniform during the last part of the 1967 season, when there was a good chance he'd be on the move again. After all, he'd already played for 4 teams in the previous 5 seasons, and his 1967 results were something less than awe-inspiring. Sure enough, the White Sox had seen enough, and they sold Colavito's contract to the Los Angeles Dodgers in March of 1968, well before most fans or collectors got their first glimpse of his burlap card. But wait, there's more. In 40 games with LA, Rocky produced just a .204 batting average and 3 homers, and they released him in July. The New York Yankees, looking to bolster their aging, faltering team, came calling 4 days later, and Colavito managed another 5 long balls on .220 hitting and 39 games before the Bombers cut him loose in September. All along the way, collectors from coast to coast were stuck with a hatless Rocky with the wrong team. But really, thanks to Topps' foresight, the card could tag the aging slugger to any team. All you needed was a bit of a squint or a couple of pen scribbles. It was a blank slate, and one that provides an iconic twist all these years later, because Colavito retired after the Yanks released him. This capless wonder of a card turned out to be as close as he got to a career capper. Today, the 1968 Topps Rocky Colavito sells for about $10 in PSA 7 condition, $20 in PSA 8, and a few bucks in decent raw condition. And whatever price you pay, you're buying a chance to imagine the could-have-been Hall of Famer with whatever team strikes your fancy.